and welcome. This is the YouTube channel for That Shakespeare Life. I'm Cassidy Cash. Each week we take a piece of Shakespeare's history and share it with you so that you can learn something new about the bard. This week we're taking a look at the first known performance of Hamlet by William Shakespeare by exploring the fact, myth, legend, of the first performance of Hamlet aboard the Red Dragon ship in 1607. During Shakespeare's lifetime, exploration was a major deal, not just in England, but a whole bunch of countries all around the world were in this international race with one another to explore and conquer and claim other countries to expand each of their empires. This was especially true in England, and this exploration across the ocean was done, as you might expect, on board a ship. And the sailors on these journeys often spent months at sea. And so one major question was, what did they do for all of that time? While it only makes sense to think they did something for entertainment during those long travels, there's surprisingly little in the way of actual evidence or information about exactly what sailors, crew, and passengers did for fun. One surprising and long debated entry in an Elizabethan maritime logbook indicates one way they may have passed the time was by performing plays. In 1607, Captain William Keeling of the East India Company ship the Red Dragon recorded in his logbook that they performed Hamlet on board ship. The entry reads, "We had the tragedy of Hamlet, and in the afternoon we went all together ashore to see if we could shoot an elephant." Interesting that he went aboard to shoot an elephant, but that's a whole nother topic for another episode. Regardless, it does show that they were performing not just plays, but Shakespeare's plays and the tragedy of Hamlet. The record gets even more interesting because he records another performance of a Shakespeare play, this time Richard II, just a few weeks later in the same month of September 1607. And then the logbook gets even more exciting with yet a third entry into the logbook indicating that Hamlet was performed for a repeat performance the following year in March of 1608. Keeling's record records that while they were anchored off the coast of Yemen, he writes, "I invited Captain Hawkins to a fish dinner and had Hamlet acted aboard me, which I permit to keep my people from idleness and unlawful games or sleep." While it makes sense to think a play would be a logical choice on board a ship, the reliability of Keeling's entry has been debated, and hotly debated at that. You see, we don't have Keeling's actual physical journal to survive and attest to what happened on board the Red Dragon for sure. Instead, what we have are 19th century recounts of what Keeling wrote down. So it's basically secondhand information at best and hundreds of years later at that. The earliest one that we have is from 1822. So for that reason and several others about forgery and whether or not people made up what Keeling said have been brought up to question whether or not we can rely on this entry to tell us what they did on board ship. Now, depending on which Shakespeare scholars and historians you read about this topic, some of them believe that staging a play on board the ship would have been a great way to instill discipline and stave off idleness amongst the crew. Others claim that this instance of Hamlet is the first performance of reader theater, where you had a book version of the play and you would perform it as you read the book. The most leading scholar on this topic is perhaps Bernice Clement, and she claims that the whole thing is made up. She says that for a long time, we believed that 1607 aboard the Red Dragon was the first known performance of Hamlet. In fact, when you go looking into the performance of Hamlet, and certainly if you just Google it, that will be what comes up. But her research essentially debunks that theory, and most leading scholars side with her for the moment until new evidence comes to light to change that perspective. For the moment, people believe that Keeling's journal is in fact unreliable and probably does not record the first performance of Hamlet as we once thought it did. Bernice based her research on the work of Andrew Thrush, who was a historian into early English voyages, and his research was unable to produce any instance of shipboard performances by English sailors. And so she decides that if no other ships record performing a play, that would make Keeling's inaccurate. I see a lot of holes in that argument, but you can make your own determination. Her research has been well received, and that's the current reigning theory. But it remains to be discovered what, if any, onboard ship entertainment was enjoyed by sailors of the early modern era, and whether or not they performed not just plays, but Shakespeare's plays, which is pretty exciting in the world of research, I think. What a fun thing to explore. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash. I hope you learned something new about the Bard. If you like Shakespeare history, please hit like and subscribe. We're here each week with even more Shakespeare. And don't forget to check out CassidyCash.com for podcast episodes, more history, animated plays, and all kinds of good stuff. I'll see you over there, and I'll see you right back here next Saturday. Bye-bye.